social proof, consensus, call it what you want. Basically, it's reviews. In particular, book reviews are important for indie authors, self-pub authors, just authors in general, right? Now, the more people who think a book is good, the more likely others will agree or want to read your book because others say it's good. So there's consensus, right? Now, also important is something called authority. Now, if information comes from someone in authority, masses are more likely to trust the message. Now, I wouldn't, for example, trust a doctor giving me plumbing advice, but I would trust a plumber to give me plumbing advice, right? So there's this guy called Robert Cialdini. Hopefully I got the name right. Robert Cialdini. He's basically an American psychologist who wrote the book Influence, The Psychology of Persuasion, and found that consensus and authority are important parts of persuading your readers or customers to buy whatever you're selling, in this case, books. Now, today's video is basically for those who don't have an audience, no backlist, no email list, no following, or fans whatsoever, and you've got to start somewhere, right? So what I'm about to share, you can leverage the audience of others, essentially, and yes, most of it does have a cost, all right? Most of it's a small, reasonable cost, in my opinion, but that is subjective, so I appreciate that. So you'll have to check things out for yourself and see if it makes sense financially to take the risk, because let's face it, there are no guarantees that you'll get any reviews whatsoever, so make sure you plan and budget accordingly. So let me take this opportunity to share the 8 book review sites that I would personally recommend for indie authors. Now, if you're ready to see how you can use social proof and authority to increase the chances of your book selling, give that like button a panda cuddle and let's dive in. So I've got a few companies that I've used for advanced reader copies. Okay, now these are all essentially for the consensus or social proof perspective. They're namely Booksprout, Book Sirens, NetGalley, and Hidden Gems. Now these ones I've definitely used and they were fine for me. Obviously your mileage may vary, in fact it will vary. Bear in mind, as I said, you may not receive any reviews, but these are 4 that you should definitely check out. Try and do some due diligence. In my case, I like to use the Alliance of Independent Authors just to see what their services rated page has, just for like a little due diligence, if you like. That's kind of like my minimum, if you like. Obviously I ask other authors what they think, if they've heard of it, they've used it. That obviously factors in. But these companies, I've used them. As I say, some of the costs, most of the costs actually are reasonable. The NetGalley one is a little bit more pricey. The others, you essentially leverage, in fact, all of these, you leverage their reviewers, right? Their readers. And hopefully their readers will download your book and read it, and hopefully they will leave an honest review on whatever platform you are specifying for them. So most of these actually have more than one platform that you can request your reviews to be posted on. Hopefully you get some reviews posted on all the sites, but again, as I said, there are no guarantees, but these are the ones I recommend personally. I've used them personally. And I found them to be okay. But also, most importantly, in this business, you have to test things out. That's my perspective. You have to test it out. Just because someone says it worked for them, it may not work for you. And just because it did not work for them, it may work for you like gangbusters. Who knows, right? You got to try it out. But again, keep in mind that you have to kind of control your risk and your budget. So if you don't have much money to spend on this, maybe this isn't really for you. But if you do have like a small to medium budget, you can definitely look at some of these, right? In fact, I would encourage you to look at some of these to see if maybe you will get like lots of reviews from ARC, advanced reader copies readers. So these are the 4 that I highly recommend. Check out their websites. They are pretty good, they are reputable, and I've used them, so that's why I'm advising that. That's why I'm recommending that these are the ones I would start with. Okay, and this is especially if you do not have an audience. You need to kind of leverage the audience of other people. So that's the social proof. These are social proof ones. Consensus, to see if those readers will read your book, and then if they like it, hopefully they'll leave a review. Hopefully it's honest and it's positive. But again, you can't really ask them for a positive review anymore. Okay, gone are the days where you can say, if you enjoyed it, give me a 5-star review. You can't do that anymore. Okay, that's like old school, and it's no longer allowed. Nowadays, you have to ask for an honest review. Okay, and make sure it's all above board with, especially KDP. It's got to be honest review. and you were not incentivized in any way whatsoever to give that review, or your customers should not be incentivized in any way. So they get a free copy of the book. Essentially, it's an ebook, right? Delivered through these platforms. They will read it. You usually have some kind of a timeline. It's not forever. You don't open your ARC program for like 20 years, right? It's usually a few. I would give them at least a few days. That's kind of pushing it. Give them a good few weeks, usually, because everyone has lives. So give them some time to read, and then hopefully review your book as it's launching, or just after launch, that kind of thing, right? So those are the social proofs: Booksprout, Book Sirens, NetGalley, and Hidden Gems. Now let's look at the other ones. And this is more like the authority. This is where we're talking about editorial reviews, okay? And these ones you can pay for editorial reviews. I've used these, and I'm very comfortable with using these again in the future. So they're Reezy Discovery, The Wishing Shelf, Ebook Fairs, and Reader's Favorite. Now, Reader's Favorite actually has one free editorial review, so you can just put your book through there, and maybe it'll get selected, but probably not. I mean, in fairness, they get a lot of submissions, right? So they're gonna pick whichever one they want to review, right? But yeah, that one at least is free, but there are the paid ones as well. So editorial reviews are usually paid, in my experience, for self-published authors anyway, with these companies. And the purpose of it is to give some kind of authority person or authority company that has weighed in on your book. This is different from the customer reviews or social proof and consensus, which essentially says anyone can review your book. With editorial reviews, these people, these readers and reviewers are specifically in that area, in that niche, or they're knowledgeable about your genre, right? Okay, they're not just anyone off the street. They have specific knowledge or specific interests, at least within your niche. Okay, and as a result, they have a bit more authority. And these reviews you would put under editorial reviews in KDP, for example. Okay, so check these out. Again, the cost can be a bit pricier because you are paying for someone's time. You are paying for that level of expertise, or at least interest in that genre, right? So there is a bit more. It's a bit more. I think, in my opinion, I would weigh it a bit higher than a customer review. Not to say the customer reviews are incorrect or less good. It's just that these editorial reviews specifically, should come from people who have authority, right? And that is the purpose of it. Okay, so these are the companies I've used. Check out their pricing to see if it's worth it for you. Again, I would run it through something like an Alliance of Independent Authors Services Rated, and go with what you feel is okay. The price has to be considered, and if this is not your thing at all, don't worry about it, just skip the whole thing. But again, this is more like the authority section of persuasion talking, right? Some people actually look at this, and it's, in my opinion, kind of important. That's why it features on places like KDP's sales page, blurb page, right? So it's important to at least consider it. You don't have to use it, but at least consider it. Okay, now if you want a detailed walkthrough of any of the social proof or consensus platforms like Booksprout, Book Sirens, NetGalley, and Hidden Gems, check out this playlist because I go through all these platforms in detail. Now, if you're not quite ready yet, you're kind of working on your first book or your next book, and you want to learn more about budgeting for your first book business maybe, start with this video right here. By the way, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already.